Alright, what is going on everybody, it's Liam here, and in today's video I have a commentary for y'all, and we're going to be talking about the controversial changes in Season 3 of 5th Age PvP. Now, I feel like a lot of the community is upset with this, and a lot of the community is happy with this. I also do think players are overreacting, but I've kind of noticed a lot of players do overreact every update in general. But before we get into this, we're gonna, obviously look at the pros and cons of this update. I'm gonna start off with the pros and end with the cons. But if you guys are brand new around here, feel free to sub and maybe leave a like rating on the video if you agree with any of my points here. And if you do disagree, let me know why in the comments below. And just try not to be biased. You gotta think critically and objective when it comes to videos like this, because if you just want Life or Ice to be better, but not provide a valid reason why it should be better, right? So for example, Resist got nerfed, right? And you're like, oh, well, Ice is the Resist school. Yeah, but you have to look at it from the broader picture of Resist is the best talent in the game basically right now, right? And objectively, right, the defensive schools have more pros than cons than the offensive schools. That is why right now KingsIsle is trying to buff up the offensive schools, because they know the defensive schools have the edge in terms of, again, objective data. So I just wanted to reiterate that right away and kind of, let you guys know, from a development standpoint or where the devs might be coming from, and more of an objective standpoint before we get into the video. But yeah, let's start off with the pros. So the first pro I have is the troll change. Now, I still personally think this is slightly overtuned, but this does restore school identity for Myth. Very, very solid and consistent minion for Myth schools. And it doesn't really do that much for the other schools like you saw in Season 2. I literally saw all 7 of the schools spamming troll, like Storms and Fires, because it's so good. And they've kind of done stuff to alleviate from that in Season 3. It can still counter Death or Ice, right? You can break off a shield, get a nice minion to help you with Death or Ice, because obviously it has sets for those schools, and it can heal you on any school. So it's still a pretty decent minion, but it's definitely been toned down quite a bit, and the school identity is back for Myth Wizards, and I do think this is a pro. Again, I do wish it was slightly a little bit worse in general, but I do think this is a better direction for it to go, and I hope that they'll change it again in the future. Another pro is they changed the queue times. So basically, if you're a high or low rank player, you should be getting matches faster now. Before, it was matching you in 2 ranks of your player. So if I'm a knight, I can get a captain or a marshal, or I can get a veteran or a sergeant. That's how it's worked in Season 2. But now, I'm a knight, I can get someone who's 1300, I can get the best player in the game who's like, 2000 rating. Maybe if I'm, 1300 rank. The game will try to put you against people around your skill, but, if you're in there for more than 5 minutes, for example, it might, give you a crazy match just to, give you a match and play the game, right? Now, I think this is a good thing because, most of the Wiz players are casual. They just want to get in there, play the game, have a chance at winning, right? Rather than wait half an hour for a game. Personally, I would take this any day of the week. I do play casually sometimes as well. Like, for example, if I wanted to really win on my Ice last meta, I would have ran the 80 resist build, which we'll be talking about later in this video. But, I play casually. I play Glass Cannon on my Ice because it's fun, right? So that's just kind of an example I can use there. And, it can work pretty well. But yeah, the point of that, I was just saying, like, if you're a casual player and, you're running a Glass Ice build, it might not be as good as the high resist build, and you could get a good player, so you might not have as much fun. But the thing is, objectively speaking, I'm pretty sure from the devs, is it will try to pair you against people around your skill before it pairs the higher ranked people, right? It'll try to get you the fastest first game, but if it can't, it'll put you against, somebody further away from you, and I think that is completely fine. You guys can disagree in the comments below. Again, feel free to let me know why you think it's bad in general. One more thing I want to add that is kind of going to be in the middle is the raid gear that came around the same time as Season 3. I do love the idea of raids in general. Like, I really like them. I'll have a video coming this week again talking about them. I think they're great gear. Really good endgame talk. Oh my god, I can't speak. Another point I have in the middle here is going to be the raid gear. Now, I really like this personally. Really good endgame content from Kingsall, and it's only slightly better than Highland or Merciless, obviously, right? But you don't have to get it unless you're a school like Storm or Fire. Really, you don't really have to, right? Even then, it's only a couple more percent in terms of damage or resist, which, you know, could matter, but it's not that big of a deal. I just think the problem with the raids right now is the accessibility and the drop rates being horrible, right? And I've been farming for 3 weeks, but my buddy, he's done, you know, maybe 3 or 4 days of runs, and he's already gotten the pieces I wanted originally going into the raid. And I've been here for 3 weeks, right? And I don't have one of those items, so I do think that system is kind of bad, but I do think it's good that, you know, we have something new to farm, and I do think it's good to give players incentive to play the game. So I figured out to put a middle point in here. Again, let me know what you guys think of the raids in the comments below. Now, we're gonna get into the cons. I think you guys probably been waiting on this one the whole gosh darn video, you know, dude. Basically, the resist change. Now, personally, right, my bias, I think this is a good change, but I have the luxury to look at things from a, you know, a practical, objective standpoint, right? I think resist needed to be nerfed, right? It needed to, because if a Storm or Death played in Ice and you took even trades, the Ice would win because of how much drastically better resist is in trades. So something needs to be done with resist. There's no denying that right now. But I think the approach Kingsall took to nerfing resist is, I don't want to say it's wrong, but I think they went too far, right? So they decreased or increased the thing where you hit through shields. So if I have 56 resist, it's 51. So if I hit through a shield, I only have 51 res, even though I have, you know, stat points in, you know, 56 here. And when I go up to 78, it gets even more crazier, right? 73 is only 57. That's getting about back to the same as, you know, what I had with my glass cannon build on, right? And players aren't really happy about this. And again, I'm not really a guy who likes to run high resist because I know it's broken right now in the current state of Wiz. But I think they just went a little bit too far. I think instead of 10, they should have chunked off 5. One thing that's nice about this update, though, is they can, you know, watch videos like this and, you know, hear the community backlash and be like, okay, maybe we went back too far. Let's scale it back by half. And personally, in my opinion, I think meeting it halfway will please defensive players enough to the point where hitting through shields isn't that crazy. But it'll also make the offensive schools, you know, give that bit of edge that they are lacking in the meta right now, objectively speaking. Now, 2 points I want to bring up for this is 1, right? If you allow your opponent to stack so many buffs on you, right, eventually a shield should be a bad move, right? I think this limit is put in place to help with A, jading, B, resist being really good, and C, Kingsall's overall design of playing better, right? If you're shielding 4 times in a row and you allow your opponent to hit and buff for those 4 rounds, eventually they should be rewarded for you not doing anything but doing the same move over and over, right? The easiest goal to compare this to is a Storm, right? If I volcanic 4 rounds in a row, right? Let's say Hidden Bubble, Beetle, Stormwing, just Thunderbird for the 4th buff. I know it's not in the game right now, but let's just say for argument's sake, right? If you allow them to shield, you know, hit and buff that much, eventually, with the amount of buffs they have, you should be punished for not engaging and trading with your opponent, right? You should get punished for them hitting through a shield, right? Because let me paint the picture this way, right? If a Storm has 5 buffs on an Owl through a shield, right, and you have a set shield, you expect that to do like 500 damage. That's 5 buffs of pips, of multiple pips that Storm put into getting those buffs to hit through that shield, right? Now, again, I'm not trying to defend schools here. This can go for fire with, you know, trap stack as well, even though trap stack's a bit easier than, you know, regular Storm in general. This could go with Storm or Myth. You can stack up so many buffs to the point where hitting through a shield is a good move. But my point is, if you play better and not so defensive, and you actually try to trade with your opponent and don't let them like, oh, well, I'm in a weakness, then you get betrayed, now I'm in a shield, then you get delusioned or whatever, and then they, you know, reliquary into a fuel, oh, they have 4 buffs, right? At that point, you have 3 rounds to counter that, or 3 rounds to ramp that and set something up yourself, for example. Or a Storm, right? If they hidden bubble into a beetle, right? If you shield twice, right? If you set shield and they hit through with that, but you have an open shot, that's an even trade at the end of the day, just about, if you do the math out, you know, with the numbers, right? Just don't let them get so many buffs up. There is time to counterplay it. I know it seems hard right now. I guess I've beaten Myths and Storms pretty easily on my ice that I've tried to, you know, just hit and buff, hit and buff, hit and buff. Eventually, you have to get to the point of, okay, you know, I can't do that because he's in hit and buff, so I need to make my trade even, at least, right? And open A-bomb for a double after Solka through a set, maybe, right? Again, that would scale to about the same percentage, but you would gain a pip on the Storm in that sense. So I do think there's truth to both ends. I think a lot of the players are complaining. It's just mostly the defensive community, and it's fine. I'm not here to, you know, hate on Jading. Well, Jading's pretty stupid, but I'm not here to hate on ices that want to have like 80 resist, but you have to realize, you know, objectively, when a stat is that good, right, and other schools aren't as good as, you know, your school, there's going to be changes that need to come to the game. And I feel like the community has blamed a lot of this on me, but again, it's literally in the data, right? Like, Storm was the lowest win rate of Season 3, right? Season 2. Season 3, it's a bit better now, because you can hit through shields more effectively, right? So if they simply just revert this change, we're gonna go right back to Season 2 meta, where running 80 resist is normalized, and Jading can be normalized again, right? And with healing becoming more prevalent in the meta right now with all the raid gear, I really think KingsIsle needs to be careful with, you know, the resist here. Again, I'm suggesting a buff to resist here, even though I'm not a defensive player. I know a lot of people think I'm biased because, you know, they don't agree with my points, but again, I've been on the side of the community 3 times, and when they thought I've been biased, right? I said to buff healing when healing was bad, and people thought I was just hating on healing. But here I am again. I'm an offensive player asking for a resist buff because I actually listen to the community. Unfortunately, some people just are so hot-headed and they don't want to listen, or, you know, listen to my videos and the constructive criticism and the objective data. But, you know, that's on them at the end of the day. But yeah, I think a 5% buff to meet halfway in the middle, because I think they just cut a little bit too deep. Again, it is good. They're trying to nerf resist. They could completely audit it back to 10% and go a whole different route with nerfing resist in general, which I'm kind of open to both of them. I feel like it would make more sense to just meet in the halfway point in this scenario. So, you know, literally, you know, defensive schools can be happier, and you're not completely, you know, taking the ability to hit through away from the offensive schools right now. So I think meeting halfway would be the best idea to KingsIsle. Still trying to look into, you know, ways how to change resist. Personally, I advocated for switching how Pierce and resist works. So for example, with these numbers right now, if I have 78 resist, let me put my stuff on here. If I have 78 resist, right, before I think this was like, what, 68 or something? I think the Pierce should go into the 68, not the 78, right? So basically, the Ice would lose 10 resist on that point, and they would be encouraged to maybe not run as high as resist and invest in some other stat points. So, personally, that's the route I would go, KingsIsle. Again, you could pick over, you know, buffing, you know, meeting in halfway, like I've suggested, or what I just suggested there with the Pierce and resist functionality. I think either one's fine, but I think that's all I got for you guys in today's video. I wanted to make this again on, you know, point of the community, because I know a lot of people are unhappy about it, and I think it's just a great video to have a chat and the comments and stuff like that. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching this far, and as always, take care, guys.